Dean Decode served for over 20 years in the US Navy. He served on 5 different classes of submarines. 4 of them were nuclear. He got to work closely with special forces from the United States. He has specialized in understanding what is happening around the world in deep underground military bases, and he's going to give us his latest update on DUMBs, and especially what's happening in Iran and what was also happening in Ukraine regarding DUMBs and the discovery of ancient technologies, giants, and portals.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome, Gene, to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be back, Dr. Salla.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you back. I mean, you've got tremendous experience due to your Navy service. So I want to just kind of begin by giving you the opportunity to give us an update on your research on DUMBs. I know we've done a few interviews in the past where you've talked a lot about what's been happening there, and I think there's a lot going on around the world. So, yeah, anything you want to report about DUMBs and especially Special Forces clearing these out on behalf of the White Hats, the Earth Alliance?
Absolutely. And of course, everybody's aware that I think that knows that with the earthquakes and explosions underground in Iran, that's dumb takeouts. Those are not, just regular earthquakes. They're, especially if they're at 10K, so at 10 kilometers, which is 33,000 feet. That's a symbol number to the cabal. They love their symbols, And so, having to do, I believe, with the number of bones in the backbone or something like that, number of vertebrae or something like that. But anyway, it's symbolic, and they do that. And then I learned there's a tunnel that goes from Mount Hermon, from Jerusalem to Mount Hermon to what used to be the dome in Qom, which is where the facility that they first bombed on the first attack by the U.S. on the nuclear facility, and took that out, both the black rock from the one of their homeworlds of the Khazarians, the Oristana. And so they took that out, and that created a compression, deep shearing wave, or not shearing wave, compression wave, that hit the bunker that Khomeini was in and actually killed him. And then he had a body double, and he was found extremely impossibly quickly in a pile of rubble on a building that was demolished. In other words, they already had him dead too, and they said, "Oh, we recovered him." I mean, you don't dig through a building and find the body and miraculously in an hour or two. Wow, it's like finding a passport after a building falls in the middle of New York City. It's like, sure, and it didn't burn and all that either, right? So, the building hit more than Fahrenheit 451. So, you have all these crazy things going on that they say, and so the tunnel goes from there, continues up, it goes through Tehran, and it continues up into Afghanistan. They've been using it it's got DUMBs along the way in certain locations as it gets under big cities and bases, military bases, etc., and ley line crossover points, and it goes up into Xinjiang, China. And so that's now being worked on and cleaned out, that entire length of tunnel system, a very, very long system that's come to my attention that they're working on right now. So that's actually Special Forces, along with help from the Golden Dome, technology, super intelligent or hyper intelligent. I guess I don't like AI. It's not artificial. It's quantum plasma-based digital computing technology, sentient. I don't know how to describe it. Somebody's going to come up with a good word for that. So anyway, that's helping the deep state to the deep state. I'm sorry, the white hats to clean that out and to clean out the deep state as they go up through that system and continue to identify other offshoots of that system in Iran that went down to the Straits of Hormuz. There's a branch where they traffic children and all kinds of things, weapons, etc., and house nuclear weapons. Facility they took out for enrichment was to create new nuclear weapons. They have nuclear weapons from the Soviet era with the warheads encased in lead, so they can't be found. And so they're in the process of locating those in those tunnel systems and taking those out as well. That's the ones you see going down south.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess one of the key questions is now: did the Iranians build these tunnels? Did they discover them and kind of like expand them out? I mean, are these tunnels like an ancient tunnel system that the Iranian regime just has moved into? And you mentioned Soviet area nuclear weapons. So, yeah, I mean, how certain are we that they have nuclear weapons either from the Soviet Union? I've heard others talk about Pakistan supplying them with nuclear weapons. So yeah, I mean, is that a sure thing that they have them?
Yes. And additionally, the tunnels, for the most part, have just been enlarged. Those are very ancient tunnels going back. Persia, which is Iran now, is a very, very ancient civilization. Pakistan has supplied them with some too, but Persia itself has only been, as Iran, Islamic since the deep state installed the government there. It's like 47 years or something like that. It's been one of the first two, along with Armenia, Christian nations on earth. Christianity came and the Hebrew came out of that area. So for eons, not eons, but centuries, many centuries, thousands of years. And so that's why they're saying, we're not Islamic. They are Christian. And so they have been there for a very, very long time. That's why Trump said you now have a chance to take your country back and install your own government, not one, in other words, based on Sharia law, which is Islamic. And, if you look at the Islamic religion, it treats women pretty much like Khomeini said. They're animals, and like camels and dogs, and they are just made to look like us, so that when we need to procreate with them, it's not unpleasant. And so he was not heterosexual, and as has been found out now, and so that's pretty much a standard within the satanic systems, that they're either bisexual or homosexual. It's pretty normal. And, but it is a pretty stupid statement, because if you're saying that women are animals, then logically speaking, you're born from a woman. What are your parents? You're half an animal. You're half animal. You're not even a pure something or other.
So Khomeini, the son of the late Ayatollah that was just killed, the son, he is pretty clearly a homosexual. That's what you're saying.
Both of them, him and his father.
I see.
Yes. In Satanism, they the statue of Baphomet shows both sexes, so it's pretty normal that they look at either that way or homosexual, and so that's usually part of getting in the club, is getting involved in that, and then they video that, and that's part of the blackmail they have on people. So that's how they have leverage on the people and keep them in control of the state.
So as far as this underground tunnel system in Iran is concerned. So we're talking in the post-revolution area. So after 1979, after they had their revolution and the clerics came in and took over, have they, the Iranians, have they been working with, other nations like enemies of the West? So we're talking, the Soviet Union, Russia, and China in kind of like exploring and exploiting whatever was in those tunnel systems?
With China. But that's one way they keep saying this is another forever war, and Trump's involved in doing and getting us in the same thing, and this is going to be World War III, and this is the end, and all of that. Well, the way that that's not true is that you look at the what Iran is doing and what the plan was for Iran to do come the time for Armageddon and World War III by Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma, which was to create a war that would start in the Middle East. And of course, the Jewish state of Israel, which has only been there since just a little bit after World War II, is anywhere where Hebrews were at all. If you look up the history of the area, that was set up to start that war between Christian and Muslim. And then you would have it conflagrate out where the Muslim nations would join Iran and the Christian and Jewish nations would, in Europe and all of that, would join Israel, and it would become a world war. So that is not what we see happening. In Iran, they're hitting Dubai, they're hitting Saudi, they tried to hit Saudi Arabia, they've hit United Arab Emirates, a lot, Oman, a lot of Muslim countries, which doesn't fit. If they were about sticking with the plan, not the plan of the 17th letter of the alphabet or the white hats, but the plan of the deep state, they would be striking nations, because we know since they hit Diego Garcia, they have ballistic missiles that can reach Europe. They would be starting to strike something like France or Italy, something close to them. France is further out, but Italy is fairly close. Greece and, Spain. You got a lot of countries there that are Christian that they could strike. They could strike all the way up with a missile with that range into United Kingdom. So that isn't what's happening, which tells you that isn't the plan that they're doing. They're not doing the plan. And that's all the leadership's being taken out in tears and all kinds of stuff if they're not going along with what's supposed to happen. And so, which they're not.
That's interesting. So by attacking Muslim nations rather than Christian nations, you're saying that somehow they're not following the deep state playbook to start off or to create this civilizational war. Something else is happening.
Yes. So if you give me share screen, if you can, I don't know if you can, I can show you the tunnel system based on the earthquakes. There you go. Now zoom out so you can see the world. And go to the next to the question mark on the top right. You see the gear. Click on the gear. No, that's not on the petty officer or the stack of paper. Higher, up in the grayish field.
Oh yes.
Gear to the left of that.
Yep.
Okay. Now go down to the last setting on that list. 30 days, all magnitudes. Click that. Right there. Yep. Now zoom into Iran. First click the gear so that's not obscuring some of the video, the view. Now zoom into Iran. And you can drag it over. There you go.
Oh, there we are.
Yep. Now if you look, you can actually see, if you click on any of those, especially the one right near the Strait of Hormuz, you're going to see it's at 10K. 10K. Yep, and go straight at
Interesting.
Straight directly northwest. That's north. There, click that. That'll be at 10K too. And go continue up that line to the yellow one at Shiraz. That'll be at 10K. And
yeah, you're right. Yeah, look at that.
That'll be at 10K. So you see the tunnel line now?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
now, if you go from the one back on the Strait of Hormuz, you go the first one that went straight north.
Yep.
That's at 10K. Now, if you go straight to Kabul in Afghanistan, Kabul, yellow dot in Afghanistan. There
okay, there we are. 90K.
Yeah, that one's going down to the center of the earth, being helped by the Agarthans to clean that. Now go to that cluster and see if some of those are at 10K going up in towards Dragon Little, so we're not almost under the key there, into China.
So you want me to click that one?
Of those. So those are coming up from the deep inner earth. And then if you go to, let me see, I got mine up too. I'll guide you here, some of them.
Okay. So, before we kind of like continue exploring, this area in Afghanistan, I'm just kind of like intrigued.
Mm-hmm. If you go to Pakistan, you can see one at 10K.
Which one?
Barashal, Pakistan. You mentioned Pakistan, so I thought I'd show you one of the tunnel system in Pakistan.
Okay, there you go, 10K, yeah.
Yeah.
Barashal. So there's an ancient tunnel system about 10K under the ground that the Iranians have built out, that they discovered, that goes back, I guess, thousands of years, but they've just built it out, occupied it, shared it with the Chinese. And so these 10K tunnel systems, or that entire network, is it being bombed, or are they, special forces? Well, I guess you said they're being bombed.
Yeah, special forces are taking out with tactical nukes. Now, if you want to go all the way up to where it terminates in China, you go up to Urumqi, Urumqi. That's right there. That'll be 10K.
Okay.
That's where it terminates. That's the dump, the main lead dump in China.
Okay. Oh.
And that one next to it, and all the ones around that. That's the whole dump. They're taking out different locations. All of the earthquakes around it are all at 10K.
Right. And so how are they taking these out? I mean, are they getting special forces to infiltrate somehow into these tunnels 10K down, bringing with them tactical nukes and then detonating those, and of course getting out before the nuke is detonated?
Yes, using the Golden Dome technology, which can open up portals.
I see. Okay, so maybe tell us about the portal system, how it connects these tunnels.
Yes, so what the Golden Dome can do is take troops in, or remove gold or anything they want from a dome, or put anything it wants into the dome. The White Hats want. And so what it does is it knows the location that they want to get to. It opens a portal using plasma system. And so if you look at an EMP, if you back engineer that and change it a bit, you have something that can generate a portal, just like you saw with MH370, where they had 3 plasma balls running around the craft creating a portal. And it opened up a portal, and they moved the aircraft, over Diego Garcia, and it went down inside the dome in Diego Garcia.
Okay, so these portals is how they're getting in there and accessing those, and using DUMs now. Using tactical nukes to take out bases and facilities down there. Now, I mean, the DUMs are also supposed to be used for trafficking people, children, and also they're finding ancient artifacts down there and giants in stasis chambers. So I guess they're destroying facilities, but also finding things and taking them out. So can you explain all of that?
Yes. So, and this is another thing that people think all the giants are bad because they're Nephilim. That's not true. In Alaska, they were trying to get deep, deep, deep under Mount Hayes, under the Black Pyramid inside Mount Hayes, where the Golden Dome is, far, far down. I mean, like those earthquakes you're clicking on, 280 kilometers down. There is a group, a city of ancient giants that they wanted to get rid of because they've been holding the frequency of the earth at such a high level that they couldn't get it polluted down to a low enough level to do what they wanted to do. They thought that's part of why they couldn't get in Mount Hayes, also in the Golden Dome, and also they couldn't, get the control over the world they need because of these really high, nearly ascended to not beyond corporeality giants that are deep, deep under Mount Hayes, beneath the black rock in Mount Hayes that is the Golden Dome pyramid.
And these giants, I mean, they're the positive ones, and which contrasts with the reports of these cannibalistic giants that some people like Tom Horn and L.A. Mazzulli have been talking about.
Now, these are really, really kind and loving and service to other giants. They're ancient, too. They're before the fall. They're before the Nephilim were on Earth.
Now, have you had direct experiences with these giants yourself, Gene? I know you do some remote viewing and able to project your consciousness to places and you see things. So is that how you know they're positive and pre-fall, pre-Nephilim?
Yes, an information source I have that is putting that information out as well. I found out first of the information source, then I remote viewed them and saw that, yes, that is their nature.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's very interesting because I had a vivid dream where I saw a group of giants and they were clearly benevolent. Actually, I've had several dreams now involving giants and they're benevolent.
Maybe you were there.
Who knows? Who knows?
Really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think that's I think a very important point that there are positive giants and people shouldn't be too frightened of them, even though there is a lot of religious programming to get people frightened about the giants.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things about what's going on in Iran is that the deep state's been using Iran for decades now to fund its activities. So with Iran taking out the dumbs and taking out the way in which, well, not just oil is being used for raising funds, but also human trafficking. So, yeah, can you talk about that? I mean, how much do you know about the human trafficking in Iran and that being also one of the focuses for this military intervention?
Yes. They've been trafficking, getting children through those tunnels, loading them up on ships in the streets near the Straits of Hormuz, taking them over, for example, to Cambodia, which is huge. It's huge on child trafficking and child sex slavery. It is huge. You can go to brothels there that are just disgusting, and little tiny kids, and a lot of kids that are homeless kids on the street. They're out there doing that because they've been put in that system so long. That's what they do. They're little tiny young prostitutes running around the streets. It's terrible, and so that's another thing that they use that all over the world to set up these systems of children, little kids and things like that doing this. And then as far as the oil, they can, with conflicts that Iran is constantly, whether it's Hezbollah or it's ISIS or it's whoever, they're funding all of this stuff. And so it drives up the price of oil, and then they can change it and let it go back down. And that affects the entire stock market. So they're making trillions of dollars by doing that for ages using Iran. It's a huge money laundering system too, where not just to drive up and down the stock market, the facilities, they had a backup of the Epstein stuff. And so that's gone into the hands, although they already had it, by a guy's name Aaron Schwartz that hacked into MIT, into the hard system in MIT. And he got everything. He was downloading thousands and thousands of pages a second. And it was a national security alarm. This is back during the time, I believe, of Obama. And they were freaked out. And so the White Hats went first to his home and grabbed everything before the dark hats came in, and so the black hats. So they have all of it, so they could say, well, we got it from a civilian source. We didn't raid anything. We didn't, the civilian source had it, and we just went there because of a security system breach in the U.S. military computer system, and to get our stuff. And it had all this other stuff. So they could say, all this stuff with Epstein, and Epstein's connected to everything. I mean, absolutely everything. The oil, the trafficking of children, weapons, nuclear weapons, regular weapons, the Adrena stuff, all of it. It attaches to everything. It attaches to Iran. It attaches to the leadership of most countries. It's just so massive. It integrates into every single thing there is. And so with that information, the White Hats Trump can write secret executive orders for what we're seeing, like with Epic Fury and all these different operations. Those are coming off of secret executive orders based on that information, because you have security leaks that would threaten the security of the United States. And you have it, like, for example, showing who is treasonous within the Congress and the Senate. Like in the State of the Union, you have all these people that almost never stand up for anything. Stand up if you think, it's the best thing is to back up the American people over the illegal immigrants and these terrible murders coming in, and they don't stand up. I mean, that was an incredible lead-in on his part. And he's just like a really good comedian, keeps showing it over and over, and all the rest of the House is, the Republicans are standing and they're not standing. And then Ilhan Omar and I think Dianne Feinstein sitting next door yelling at him, "You're the problem, you're there." It's like, and so it was just a classic play on his part. And so this is all showing the corruption within the government, the deep state, into the Democrats, and into the rhinos and everything else. And so as time goes on, a lot of those people are replaced already. But when Gitmo gets going full blast, we see the tribunals come out and all of that, along with the ones that have already happened. Then they'll have that information backed up, and they'll go, "Where'd you get this information? Did you, use it? You broke into somebody's systems?" No, there's this Aaron Schwartz guy. They call him the internet boy, the internet's boy. Because he broke into MIT. He, went into MIT with his backpack, and he hacked into the hard frame, which it controls all of the whole internet and infranet and everything else for the entire Earth. So it's all interconnected right there. All the military, all the deep state, everything. And so he got it all. It's just and really quick. So you can see all the countries all over the world are going, "Oh no," our military stuff, our top secret stuff, all of that. And so, yeah, it's an amazing situation. Back to you.
So with these portals in Iran, I also have heard from different sources that the Iranians were allowing, or kind of facilitating negative extraterrestrials or reptilians, draconians, that kind coming through the portals, and that this was also one of the reasons why the US intervened, that they wanted to kind of like get control of that tunnel system so that they could prevent these negative extraterrestrials coming and going our planet.
Precisely. So you can't open a portal just anywhere you want. It has to be on at least a minor ley line confluence with like a nuclear weapon. It has to be on a confluence with the timing of the ley lines that move from the equator crossing those lines that are not moving. And so you can open it then. So they can tell you where the portal can be, and they know where they have been using them. So they can actually lock that down. And then on top of that, you have Stargate 10 that was in Iran, in the facility that you were along there near Quam, that they took out, and they've got Stargate, the White Hat's got Stargate 10 because they're bringing reptilians straight in through there because you can't bring them in. Solar Warden, Radiant Guardian, Radiant Glory has locked down our star system, our solar system, and you can't get them in through craft. And so what they've been doing is using Stargate 10 and portals. And so now the White Hats have taken that, so that's locked down now, so they can't do that anymore either, because the reptilians are just like the rest of the cabal. They don't give up. They keep trying and trying and trying to find a way in and trying to find a way in over and over and over. So that's what you see going on with that.
Okay, so some of the nuclear detonations that have been happening at 10 kilometers under the ground, taking out different aspects or different parts of the tunnel systems. I mean, that's designed to take out some of these reptilians that have come in.
Yes. So, you don't see an earthquake there because they took it a long time ago as far as control of it, but there was an offshoot that is near the border going into Iraq in Baghdad. That's where Stargate 10 was. That they had moved it from Tehran because the White Hats took that part of the tunnel system a long time ago. And that one goes up to Balkanabad under the Caspian Sea, and then comes up in Balkanabad, and it splits, and it also goes into Shamakaki in Azerbaijan and Balkanabad in Turkmenistan. But the one that is near Baghdad, it's in Sarapal-e-Zahab in Iran, but it's on the border, and that's where they had Stargate 10, and so they've removed that. Yeah, that one right there. If you click on that, you'll see it's 10K.
Oh, that one there, Sapol-e-Sahab, that's near Stargate 10?
It was where Stargate 10 was.
I see.
It's where it is. They've locked it down. They haven't moved it, but it's locked down.
Let's see. Well, yeah. So there you have an earthquake. So that's, and that earthquake happened in February 26th, so not that long ago.
Yep. And you can see it's straight on that line of the tunnel system. You can see all the line right going straight down there. I mean, it does a slight jog over, but it goes pretty much straight.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And then at Ahvaz, it has the offshoot that goes up to the one that is in Turkmenistan. And the one in Ahvaz, they just recently took out too. And then it goes up through Therid and Shar. I don't speak Arabic, so, and up through and goes into Turkmenistan and into Balkanabad. And so, and I'm sure I'm butchering everything because I don't speak the languages, but that's what I read when I read it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So these. Sorry. Go on.
On this map, you can actually see Quam, which is unusual. There's Quam.
Yeah,
and that's
Quam right there.
Where they bombed for the nuclear enrichment facility.
I know that's also where. I guess it's one of their most sacred cities, right? It's where the clerics study and get their advanced degrees.
Correct.
Cool. So with the kind of like taking out of these tunnel systems and all of the assets that the Iranians have in there, including the nuclear weapons. How long do you think that's going to take? I mean, people are wondering if this is going to turn into another forever war, or are we getting close to that kind of endpoint where enough of this has been taken out that that the Trump administration can pull out and say, okay, we've won and we're done?
Yeah, I think we're around 2/3 of the way to the end point. So I don't think it's good. It's not going to be a forever war, but we still got a few weeks or something left. We're a few weeks in, or a month or something. I'm not exactly sure how many days, because when they say they say they went in, the special forces were already underground in there doing stuff. So when do you call them? When do you start? And it's like with Ukraine war, I actually was reporting that they were in Ukraine 2 weeks before, and like people that tracked all the aircraft and stuff were saying, there's nothing saying this. He's out of his mind. There's no sign that because they're not coming on railways. I know they have railways, the Russians going down to Ukraine, but they're not going to do that. They're going to come through the tunnel system, so it's not obvious, and then go straight up into Ukraine. They've even used pipelines before and crawled through pipelines before. So the Russians do the same type of art of war and know how to do that. You're not going to let the enemy know you're coming if you have some way to not let them know. And those tunnels are there, so why not use them? And so that, and then sure enough, a couple weeks later they go, how did he know? Because I know the tunnels. So anyway, that's the same thing we see here. Is the epic fury and all of this started, but how did we know where this is? Where to portal into a tunnel system? How do we know that, where these nuclear facilities are? Because we have infiltration for decades into this. Same thing with all these sleeper cells in the U.S. Infiltration into all the sleeper cells. We know where they all are and and if we know to go after them when they get their orders to activate. So, the special forces and ICE agents and all of this, and the good FBI, the white hats, are on the ground with that information, and they can intercede before it gets going crazy. A lot of it, you see small interdictions and things that would have conflagrated out into something massive. You would have to call in the National Guard and the military in, but it doesn't happen because they're on top of it so fast, most people don't even notice.
Now, with Iranian white hats, I mean, what I've been told, one of my sources says that Iranian white hats, or probably more correct to call them Persians, people that kind of maintain or revere the ancient Persian culture, they are working with the US and also with positive forces from Russia in like taking out all of this, taking out the Iranian and like the Iranian mullahs and the deep state. So how influential is this kind of like Iranian white hat element, and how much are they working with the U.S. Special Forces?
Extremely. And I say that because when they had the power outage and the internet shut down, and Starlink was still operating, and they had identified the nodes, that's how they knew what areas to black out and to catch which ones are up and which ones are good people that are up and which ones are dark hats, black hats that are up. That's how they cleared a lot of the stuff out. And got a lot of these facilities, locations, and all of this before the actual main operation of Epic Fury started.
So I just wanted to ask about the role Israel is playing. I mean, in the war that people are kind of like obsessing over in terms of how that's being covered in the mainstream news. I mean, Israel is depicted as kind of like a full partner of the US in the bombing campaign. But how much is Israel contributing to this underlying agenda of clearing out the DUMs and taking control of all of that? Are they are they working with the Earth Alliance, with US Special Forces, or are they kind of seeking to sabotage that?
No, they're actually working with, because as you remember, there's a tunnel system from Mount Hermon, which is in Israel, and from Jerusalem, which is in Israel. So that goes all the way up to Guam. And so all of that interconnection is the IDF is working, special forces of the IDF are working with the U.S. and the other white hat special forces, all in combination. And, I know people keep saying, the U.S. is run and Trump is run by the Mossad and by the IDF and by the Israeli government, which is not Hebrew at all. I mean, Netanyahu, while he was still around, he was Polish, and he was not Hebrew. His genetics, they're talking about having to run for government in the future in Israel. You would have to have a genetic test to see if you have Hebrew DNA at all, and he had none. And so he is either dead or in a coma, been removed to Europe. I think it was Germany, because he got hit in an attack. And so the AI that, is very poorly done is comms, because you don't have a poorly done AI with a government system, because they have super AI and they have teams of people that would comb through that, and it would be flawless to where you couldn't tell. So if you count the fingers and like the jacket sliding over the hand, that's all Masonic symbols. And so those are symbols and comms about, like at one point he has two fingers that of the same finger. That's comms that now his body double is going to be in. And so it's no longer him. So that tells me he more likely is dead. And then the coffee cup, the coffee is over the, surface tension over the top of the cup, and picks it up and doesn't spill. So they're doing this without spilling any kind of, secret information or anything. So it's all comms. And the U.S. is controlling Netanyahu before, and they're controlling the entire country of Israel. And their black hats are essentially have no power and are being used through blackmail and pressure, leverage, to do what they're told to do.
Yeah, the image of Netanyahu having six fingers, I guess that does kind of like point to some kind of AI program being used there. I mean, here's the image. I'm going to try and blow it up, but that does kind of suggest that this is a fake Netanyahu AI generated, and clearly they're trying to cover up something.
Yes. And so it's always important to pay attention when you have something like that, which finger is duplicated, because that has a meaning in Masonic symbology, and we want to go and use that to understand the comps to some degree.
I see. Now, one of the other aspects of this conflict that one of my sources has talked about is that there's a kind of like ancient battle going on here between the god, or the supreme god of the Persians, Ahura Mazda, and the paramount god of the Jews, Yahweh. And of course, we go through history. I mean, we know that the Persians once enslaved the Israeli people, the ancient Jews, and kept them enslaved. And I guess that kind of pointed to that conflict there between a different, depends on how you view these gods. Ahura Mazda and Yahweh, do you regard them as spiritual entities or like extraterrestrial warlords? I tend to look at the latter as kind of like supported in fact or supported historically. So what do you think of that? Is what's playing out now just a repetition of this ancient conflict between different gods?
Yes, between different archons, fifth density negative reptilians that, at that level of negative ascension, you got all kinds of powers and abilities and technologies anyway. So you would be looked at by the people of that era as a god. And so you've got one side fighting one dark cat fighting another for possession of that area and whatever in the world and all of that. That's been going on for forever. I mean, eons, millions of years.
Yes, I guess we're just kind of repeating history here, and that's a very interesting aspect of what's going on. So, there's a lot of people that are frightened that what we're witnessing is part of the lead up to an end times war, that this is just going to expand, and the kind of like Gog and Magog end times war is fast approaching, or the other view, and I think that's kind of like more consistent with what you've been saying, is that the Earth Alliance, the White Hats, are cleaning out the dumbs of all the deep state elements, and that what's going to happen once they've finished that is that we can move into a golden age or a more peaceful time.
Yes, exactly. And again, it doesn't line up because they're hitting other Islamic countries, which is not what was supposed to happen by the Gog Magog Armageddon kind of thing from Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike to get us into World War III. And, also taking out other tunnel systems that are part of this that go to the Spanish side of the cabal. So you've got the Khazarians coming into Spain and being told by Spain, as quote Jewish Hebrew, which they weren't, they're Khazarian. You got to leave because they're doing the same thing. The kids, all this stuff, the Adrena stuff. So what they did is they became the Jesuits. They said you got to become Catholic. So okay, here we are, or Christian or something. So they became Catholic. Here we are, and we're Jesuits. Same people again: Pharisees, Jesuits, Mason. 33rd degree and above. It's still the same. It's all the same thing. It's still the deep state. It's still the dark hats. It's still the Satanists. It's all the same thing. And so with that, taking out, Cuba's getting, saying that, they'll negotiate now, and Venezuela, and that is another trafficking link that goes from Venezuela up through the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, off the coast of Ponce, up through Haiti, we know what happened in Haiti. As Trump said, you've taken many villages, and all the way up through the Keys into Florida. And so Trump is actually on top of one end, which they completely cleaned out, obviously. His Mar-a-Lago is the end of that tunnel system. So they cleaned it out going that way. And, that goes down through Key West and all the way down through the Keys and Richard Branson's Islands and Epstein's Islands and all of this stuff. And it segues over to Belize and Trinidad Tobago and all of this. And so they're in the process of taking all of this out. That's, part of the Spanish-American war that we supposed to have won and paid money to get property from them. And yet here we are still fighting that war. And so that's ongoing too. And that's in the process of being cleaned out at the same time as Iran.
That's very important, that what's happening in the Americas is a kind of mirror of what we're seeing in Iran and the Middle East, that this is U.S. Special Forces working with white hats from other countries, clearing out these tunnel systems, these dams that are being used for human trafficking and letting negative extraterrestrials in, and that this is all being cleared out around the world globally at the same time.
Yes, and that tunnel system actually goes down all the way to Antarctica. It goes through Falklands, where they got the black goo, the bad stuff, none of the good stuff from the Earth, and into Base 211. So that's the NAZI connection and Operation Paperclip and a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that the tunnel system going through South America extends all the way down into Antarctica.
Yes.
And that and that's why a lot of US presidents have gone down to Bariloche, that kind of southernmost tip or area of like Patagonia in Argentina, because it's pretty easy to get into the tunnel system, and just kind of like you then go to Antarctica, and that's where they've been having their secret meetings.
Yes, and that's the white hat part of it. The dark hat part goes down through there, and it goes through Rothschild Island, which has a pyramid on it, actually, and down into.
Oh, you just cut out there momentarily.
The dark hats goes down through Rothschild Island, which has a black pyramid on it, and then it goes into base 211, where the NACIs built their base, New Schwabenland, at the end of World War II.
Right. Well, as far as I know, that base and the Nazi bases in Antarctica, that they've been handed over. They've been kind of like taken over by white hats. Is that your information as well?
I'm not sure on that one. It may be that way. I'd have to look into and see that. I haven't heard that they're completely transitioned.
Mm-hmm. So with this kind of like war that we're witnessing in the Middle East, it seems to be a lot of kind of like Trump supporters, major Trump supporters, like Tucker Carlson and a few others that are very critical of him for launching this war. But of course, if we understand that the war's all about clearing out these dams, these tunnel systems and so forth, then, you know, we're kind of like more neutral or more supportive of what Trump is doing. So what's happening with Tucker Carlson and others that are critical of Donald Trump? Are they just kind of like, you know, just poorly briefed, just missing the big picture?
No, they're completely briefed. They're part of controlled opposition by the White Hats to create a split in the MAGA, so that then you have that. So it won't be deep state control, it'll be White Hats. And that's Candace Owens, who's completely brief. Tucker is fairly brief. And I think Don Bongino is part of that too. So that's all part of the breakaway. And then to form another party, and then at the elections to come back in and throw it all together again, just like you had Elon before. And then he said, oh, Trump's in the Epstein stuff. He's in the files. That's why he doesn't want it. He's going, oh, we're still talking about that? No, that's on purpose. That's all to get the dark hats and the Democrats to demand the files. And then, yeah, you demand it and you're all over it. And all those people that are sitting at the State of the Union for all the standing ovations, I can guarantee you every single one of them are in there over and over and over. And if we're looking at the real ones, we're not going to be looking at the real ones for a whole lot much longer.
So what about the chances of a black swan event happening in the United States? People have been predicting some kind of black swan event, cities being taken over by Antifa or kind of like deep state cells and so forth. Is that still going to happen? I mean, are we going to witness some kind of major events in the US and cities being taken over, or even some kind of major false flag event?
I think we're going to see something global, because of course Putin is white hat, so is Xi, but the CPC or CCP, as most people call it, is in a state of extreme problems and collapse. There's 10 provinces in China that are broken away, and they're not able to get them back. There's rioting and protests, and it is violent now. And it's going to break up, and then it'll come back together under the White Hats, and the CPC will be gone, and will come back and go to three spheres of influence. You'll have the U.S., you'll have Saudi Arabia and that for the Middle East, and then you'll have China for Asia and Malaysia and that stuff, and Russia. And so Russia is going to play the part like Tucker and Candace are doing, And we're going to have, I feel it's very likely, a near nuclear event, or we may actually have a blue beam nuclear event that's not really nuclear. And it may be over the ocean or over a mountain. Yeah, and they'll say it was a facility there, which very well could be. And we had to take it out. And so that will get us into something like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we get really, really close, because there's certain type of people, like Colonel Bossi has said, yellow hats, that unless you scare the bejeebers out of them, they're not going to move out of their comfort zone. They're not going to, do anything. They'll look at, oh, you see the stuff with the Epstein file? Huh. Oh, look at what the Raiders are doing. Oh my goodness. Did you see this? And so they don't really care about things. They don't care except, having their yachts and all of this stuff and their retirement money and all that. So the other thing you have to hit them with, and it can't last too long, or the black hats will take it and run with it, is a financial collapse, which has to come down anyway. You've got to get rid of the old system to bring in the new quantum system. So they're going to collapse probably with silver, which will go past parity with gold and then some. It's just begun. It's going to go beyond what people can even imagine. And it's going to collapse the system. And then those type of people are going to have it, all their money is, oh, my money is gone. Oh, my retirement's gone. And oh no, we're going to have World War III. And then they're going to get involved because they're scared out of their wits, and all of their nest egg and all of their properties and everything that, all my stuff is gone. And so that will get those people involved. That's how we got in this, is the people of the countries involved, including the U.S., weren't involved in their government. This is not about the Great Awakening. It's not about some world leader like Trump, to help clean it up, but not to run the show forever like a dictator. He said, just like he said to Iran, now you can take back your country and get your own government. He didn't replace the government in Venezuela. It's still running under the vice president as the president now. So you're seeing a completely different move than the cabal would do, like they did in Iraq, and just took out everything. And so this is how it's going to look. But what they want is for the people to get involved in their government, where we already see parents going to the school board and saying certain things and getting involved in their schooling system for their kids, and getting in Texas, the parents are getting involved and going in and saying, if I was a Muslim, then I would want this and this and this, but I'm not. And that's a violation of the Constitution and That's getting involved. And that's how we need to do this. The Great Awakening is a spiritual awakening of us coming into our spiritual power, taking responsibility, and waking up to the truth of, one God of all creation and his only son, Jesus Christ, and this Shahir Allah and this stuff is not worshiping that God. That's the other God that you were talking about earlier. So over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to kind of like shift now, or kind of like start bringing things to a close by talking about this webinar that you're going to be joining me and JP or Jorge Pabon. And we're going to be discussing some of these issues in more depth. We're going to have a panel with you and JP. And so I just wanted to give you the opportunity, AI and ETs, how much are they a part of the kind of power shifts that are happening in 2026?
Extreme. So, of course, we're going to have disclosure. And you have ASI, which is artificial superintelligent, like Colossus and the Golden Dome. And so as that gets revealed, along with the fact that some of that was built by ETs, non-terrestrial beings, and interterrestrial beings, the significance of this will become extremely disturbing and extremely eye-opening to the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I noticed that Melania Trump is really pushing AI as something that will help in child development. And I thought that was very significant. So, people are split on AI being a positive or negative thing. I tend to view it not in such a positive light, but given what Melania Trump is doing, it makes me think that the Trump administration is working with some very positive ETs and AI in all this AI superintelligence to bring about positive changes in 2026.
Actually, directly through Melania for good reason. And I'll let people. There's a good reason.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that in depth on April 18. You'll be part of the panel with JP and also the Q&A with the audience. So people can get more information just by going to exopolitics.org about that webinar, April 18. And I'll be presenting and be joined by Jean and JP in the panel discussion and the Q&A. So, Jean, I wanted to give you the opportunity to finish up by talking about any kind of special events you've got coming up, things on your website that you want to bring to people's attention.
Yes, of course, the Golden Dome Decode in full. I did a partial of it on Michael Jacob's platform, but that's available there. It's part 2 of the Alaska dome system. And then I've also getting ready to do pretty soon the next series of A's in the alphabet for the U.S. domes, Alabama, Arkansas, and Arizona. Tonight we have a community share that we do once a month where people can just talk and get to know each other, so you develop community. And then in April, I'm going to be doing a presentation in the series times from a book called Smoky God, which is a voyage to the inner earth. And then, I have a bi-weekly news update that will be on the 1st of April. And then also I do a monthly expose on the art of war. I'll be doing chapter 8, which is variation of tactics, on Wednesday the 8th. And then I have done a series. We're doing another one, unscripted, and there were floods, part 3. That will be on the 9th. And so those are the near time frame of the big stuff that is coming out. So looking forward to that webinar on the 18th, of course. And I'll be continuing on the 22nd with part 2B of Antarctica, the NAZI presence, and that will go into the Nazi presence in base 211.
Great. Well, you definitely are keeping busy. You have a very full schedule there. So I'm very glad you could take time out to come and give us an update on what's going on around the world. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you on April 18 and going deeper into the power shifts that are happening around the planet, and what's going on with the AI superintelligence and extraterrestrial disclosure.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it as well. Thank you, Dr. Sala.
Thank you, Jean. All the best. Aloha.
Aloha. God bless you all.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Sala. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Sala. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.